I'm the Standing Global Youth Ambassador with Skills for Life Foundation. Before we begin, I want you to think about the following circumstances. Convincing your mom for a get-together with your friends, negotiating with your employer for a potential job opportunity, inspiring your team that you're leading to reach a common goal, or resolving a conflict with a friend. Now, I want you to think about one skill that is common that you will use in all of these situations. The skill that I'm talking about is communication. And today, in this particular episode, we have with us our industry expert, Kathleen Joyner. Hello, Kathleen. How are you?
Hi, Aafreen. I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well, very well. It's so wonderful to have you with us today. Kathleen is the Director of Communications at the Honors College of Georgia State University in the United States of America. She is an incredible storyteller at heart and a wonderful, fun person to be around. Before she became the Director of Communications, she has served as a journalist for various newspapers across the Southeast region of the United States. And it is so wonderful to have you with us. How are you doing today? How is it going?
It's going well, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. And I think you summed up communications so well in those examples that you gave.
Thank you. It is absolutely such a pleasure to have you with us, and I cannot wait to get on this interaction with you. The first question that I have for you, and this is a very important question. I've been told that you love spicy food. So have you ever tried Indian spicy food?
I've had different regional Indian dishes. Okay. I don't know how authentically spicy they were, but I am game fry. So what is something I should try? What should be on my list?
Well, that depends on what level of spicy have you experienced yet.
I like enough spicy where you get a little bit of sweat, but not like too much.
Oh, that's my kind of spicy. I also like the kind of spicy that kind of makes you cry sometimes. So good.
Right. It's very cleansing.
Yeah. Okay, so Kathleen, we have a really diverse audience who will be watching this interview today. There are young people, there are teenagers, there are young professionals, parents, everybody there, and they're so eager to hear from you today. They're so excited to learn and listen to what you have to say about communication as a skill. My first question, not my real first question to you, is based off of the fact that humans, they thrive off their relationships with other people. And the kind of relations that we share with people is largely based on the kind of communication that we do with them. Now, I want to know, when did you realize that you could have a career in something so routine? Communication is something that we use every single day in our lives. So was it like a particular moment of epiphany when you realized, oh, I could do this for the rest of my life? What was it?
I don't know if it was like a light bulb moment, but I do remember early on, as a young kid in school, it became clear to me that if you were the kind of student who could speak confidently and clearly and wasn't afraid to ask questions, good questions, informed questions, that you would get a little bit more attention from the instructor, the teacher, and you would get a little bit more out of the class. And I really I was very curious and I wanted to know more. So I decided that I would speak up. And I think through practice, you become better at it. But when I realized that it might be a career was, I think in high school, I was exploring going into university and thinking of what it was I wanted to pursue. And my dad, who's always been a big inspiration to me, read a daily newspaper. And for him, it was a very important object, right? We weren't allowed to touch the newspaper till he was done with it. So to get a section of the paper to read was a big privilege. And I remember reading it all the time and thinking there's so much information here. And by reading it, I feel like I'm part of the bigger world. And I wanted to be somebody who could share that kind of information to inform people and educate people and make sure that people feel connected in their relationships with, their communities. When I read the newspaper, he would have conversations with me about what I had read. And those were really special times together, that we could share what was just one-on-one.
Absolutely.
So I felt very important and grown up.
Yeah. And who doesn't love that? I mean, I personally relate to that a lot because my father places a lot of emphasis on, getting your current affairs at heart, knowing what's going on in the world. And I feel like knowing what's going on in the outside world gives you an opportunity to communicate with the people in your inside world. And that connection is just beautiful. So I really love how you summed up the entire thing and brought it together. That was beautiful. Since we're already talking about this, I am very curious to know, when is it that you realized that communication was a really important skill in your life, especially because we're addressing young people right now? When did you realize that it was an important skill for early life success, something that you could not do without? Was it like a failure in communication or a moment of miscommunication? What was it?
Yeah, and I was going to say, I'm sure I've had so many moments of miscommunication or failure, but I look at communication as sort of a journey, right? It's a two-way street. It's talking and listening, or writing and reading. But I think when it became very clear to me just how important communication was early on when I was applying to universities or looking for jobs, trying to find a way to introduce myself. You send out a lot of emails, and I think especially this day and age, people become inundated with emails, and that message or introduction can get so easily lost. So I started thinking about what are some other ways that I can initiate communication with people. So calling them up and having a personal connection, I think, really helped. And so I started thinking about not just what it was that I was trying to say, but also how I was trying to say it. And I think that's a key component to communication.
Yes, I really find a lot of value in what you just said, because a lot of times we try to say too many things, but out of those too many things, there's not a lot for the other person to take out. And especially about different ways, what you said about, finding different ways to communicate, because different people have different ways of getting your points across. So I feel like the more accustomed you are to reaching out to different people in diverse ways, the better your relationships are going to be with them.
Yeah, you have to meet people where they are, and you have to think about the best way that they're going to receive the information. And if you're talking to a friend, it might be a text message or a DM in a social media app. But if you're talking to a potential boss, you might want to send a letter. I mean, I know that's very old-fashioned, but especially now, being home a lot because of the pandemic, I really enjoy checking my mailbox. And getting a letter is very special, but I get 100 emails. So, it's trying to find a way to initiate that conversation. And then, like you said, miscommunications happen all the time. It's inevitable. We're going to make a mistake, but it's being attuned to that and thinking about, okay, here's how the mistake happened. And then here's how I can not repeat that mistake again. Maybe it's being more direct and clear, or maybe it's listening better, or really reading what it is that the person responding is saying, and not just thinking about what am I trying to say, but what are they saying back to me? And what kind of information do I need to continue this conversation?
I feel like although certain things in today's day and age might feel old school, but they kind of carry the same sentiment, like receiving a letter. There's absolutely nothing more special than getting to, experience that somebody put in the hard work of writing down something, with their own hands for you.
Yeah.
That is particularly special.
Communication doesn't just stop with what I'm telling you. Now I need to know what you're telling me, and then I want to thank you for that time. Like, let's continue, show signs that you want to continue that conversation, continue that relationship, that you're somebody who is going to be in conversation, in communication.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like a two-way street. It has to keep going. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious to ask you this. So we know, like, if there is one thing that is occupying everybody's minds from across the world right now, it's this pandemic that's going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like most of us have accepted the fact that COVID-19 is going to bring about a new world order. And it's going to change a lot of things moving forward. So, and as that is happening, I have observed that a lot of us are spending more time in close quarters with our family members, and we're becoming physically distant from our work environments because we're social distancing. And even when that is happening, we're virtually interacting with the same people. So do you think that the dynamics of communication itself are changing? And do you think there are new strategies that we need to adopt to communicate better, to, better adjust to this time?
Yes, I think that's such a great point. You're right, it is challenging. It's hard to build a community or have a conversation sometimes when you're not physically present. But I think that if something good were to come of this, it's that people who are interested in communications are looking at ways to adapt. And this is a great example, right? I would love to be sitting next to you having this conversation, but we can't. And so this technology is allowing us to still have a communication and share it with an audience. So I think it's figuring out how to be flexible and adaptable and looking at technology as a partner, right? We can still have relationships and communications. We just do it in a slightly different way. And I think now more than ever, communication is important because you can become so distant from friends, loved ones, coworkers, partners in research, partners in business. So finding ways. And another great thing is, you can cross time zones and geographical distances. So even if there weren't a pandemic, we might learn strategies that will help us better connect to people who are far away, pandemic or not. And I think that just looking at technology not as something confusing or difficult, but something that is going to be a tool to help us continue those relationships and conversations.
Technology is a very big part of the 21st century, and even before we came across this pandemic, we had been gifted with certain tools that would help us connect with people from all over the world, like you said, in different time zones. The only thing is that this pandemic has brought those tools to more light, and the tool is the importance of keeping in touch no matter where you are. So yeah.
So if your parents are telling you to get off your phone, just tell them you're in communication.
I love that. Well, that's a hack for all the viewers watching this video.
That's right.
Yeah. And since we're talking about technology and digital communication, I wanna ask you this. So we're living in the 21st century, and being a young person myself, and from what you said, young people, teenagers and young adults, we thrive off our communication on social media. And as we're becoming more and more interactive with people on social media, and as our profile becomes more visible, do you think that there are certain things that we need to be more mindful of while, posting things on social media or interacting with people?
Yeah, I think being thoughtful and mindful about what you're posting might seem like a chore at first, because you do want to curate your life and show all these cool experiences that you're having. But always in the back of your mind, think about, is this something that I would want to share with my boss one day? Is this something I would want to share with my great auntie one day? How comfortable am I sharing it? Because even if you have privacy settings, the thing about digital communications is there's always a record of it somewhere. It can always live on. Somebody can take a screenshot. Somebody could, a potential employer might try to friend you to see what's on your social media channels, right? And it's not a reason to be fearful. I think young people are just so talented at social media. You guys seem to know how to use it, but it's making sure that you're using it to help you and for a good reason, right? So social media, not just LinkedIn, but all kinds of platforms, are a really great way of making connections and networking with people who want to study the same areas as you, might want to work in the same areas as you, might want to partner with you on an entrepreneurship business or a research or some kind of project or something artistic. And it's a great way to reach out and make those connections and to stay in communication with each other. But you really do have to think, is what I'm sharing something that I really do intend to share with a broader audience? Because I could think, oh, I'm just sending Aafreen like a cute picture, but is it something that I might actually want to share with the whole world? Because those digital communications don't necessarily stay private. And something that you might think of today that sounds really witty and funny, a couple months from now, you might look back on it and be like, oh, that's so embarrassing. I can't believe I posted that. And so it's also a good reminder to go back into your feeds, right? And go through and make sure, oh, do I still believe this? Do I still think this? You can always go back and delete things and make sure that how you're presenting yourself is professional and really true to yourself.
I feel like when we're physically present interacting with someone, we pay some attention to the consequences of our words. The thing with social media is because you're not physically face to face with someone, it kind of just skips your mind that, okay, I'm saying this, or more likely I'm typing this, or I'm posting this picture. There are possibly going to be some consequences of that. So I definitely agree that there are things to be mindful of. And
yeah, you're exactly right. I could say something, to someone's face and I get an immediate reaction and think, ooh, well, maybe that wasn't the right thing to say. Maybe I offended you and I can apologize. But if you're posting on social, you might not get that reaction right away, and you've got to scroll through your comments and then you see, oh, well, maybe I didn't say the right thing, or I said it in an offensive way. And then it's harder to apologize because now you've got to apologize to the whole world, right? So just be more mindful, I think, is the takeaway from that.
Absolutely, yes.